What happens when Trump's personal lawyer becomes a federal prosecutor, gets her authority challenged by federal judges, and then blames a Republican senator for blocking her path? Ladies and gentlemen, we're diving deep into one of the most explosive political battles brewing within the Republican Party right now, and the truth might surprise you. This isn't just another political squabble. This is a story about constitutional law, Senate traditions dating back over a century, and how misinformation can ignite unnecessary wars within our own party. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly what's happening, why it matters, and most importantly, who's actually telling the truth. So buckle up, because we're about to unpack the Alina Habba versus Chuck Grassley controversy that has the political world talking. Let's start from the beginning, because understanding this story requires knowing the key players and the timeline of events. Alina Habba, Trump's former personal defense lawyer, the woman who stood by his side through some of his toughest legal battles, in March 2025, President Trump appointed her as the interim U.S. attorney for New Jersey. Now, this wasn't just any appointment. Habba had never worked as a criminal prosecutor before. Her expertise was in civil law, defending Trump against various lawsuits. Chuck Grassley, the 91-year-old Republican senator from Iowa, currently serving as chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee. This is a man who has been one of Trump's most consistent allies, particularly in exposing corruption and fighting for election integrity. He's the guy who helped break the Russia collusion hoax wide open. But here's where things get interesting. On Thursday, August 21st, Habba appeared on Sean Hannity's show and made some serious accusations. Let's listen to her exact words. "I was the nominee to become the U.S. attorney, and Cory Booker and Andy Kim, who I have never to this day spoken to in my life, despite my attempts to meet them, have truly done us a disservice. And frankly, same with Senator Grassley, by holding up a traditional blue slip, not a law, and not allowing a lot of the president's picks to go through and be voted on by Senate." Now, this statement set off a firestorm on social media. Conservative commentators immediately began attacking Grassley, calling him a rhino, demanding he step down due to his age, and essentially declaring war on one of our most effective conservative senators. But here's the critical question we need to ask. Is Habba's claim actually true? Is Chuck Grassley really the problem here? Or is there something much deeper going on that we need to understand? Before we dive into the Grassley controversy, we need to understand what happened just hours before Habba made those comments on Hannity, because the timing here is absolutely crucial. On Thursday, August 21st, the same day as her Hannity appearance, federal judge Matthew Brann dropped a legal bombshell. In a 77-page ruling, this Obama-appointed judge declared that Alina Habba has been serving as New Jersey's U.S. attorney without legal authority since July 1st. Now, let me break this down because it gets complicated fast. Habba was originally appointed as interim U.S. attorney in March with a 120-day term. When that term was about to expire in July, the Trump administration used what they believed were legal loopholes to keep her in place as acting U.S. attorney. Here's what they did. They fired the replacement attorney that New Jersey federal judges had chosen, withdrew Habba's nomination for the permanent position, then immediately reappointed her as acting U.S. attorney under the Federal Vacancies Reform Act. But Judge Brann said, not so fast. He ruled that this entire maneuver was unconstitutional. According to his decision, Habba's signatures on court filings have been invalid, and she cannot legally prosecute cases in New Jersey federal court. Attorney General Pam Bondi immediately fired back, tweeting, "We will immediately appeal this. This is Obama-appointed judge. Makes critical ruling on Alina Habba's reinstatement. U.S. Attorney Habba is doing incredible work in New Jersey, and we will protect her position from activist judicial attacks." And this is where things get really interesting from a timing perspective. Habba appeared on Hannity just hours after this devastating court ruling. Was her attack on Grassley a deflection? Was she trying to shift blame away from the legal challenges she was facing? Now, let's get to the heart of Habba's complaint against Grassley, this thing called the blue slip tradition. Because if you don't understand what a blue slip is, you can't understand why Habba's accusation against Grassley is fundamentally flawed. The blue slip tradition dates back to 1917, over a century old. Here's how it works. When a president nominates someone for a federal judgeship or U.S. attorney position, the Senate Judiciary Committee chairman sends a blue-colored form to the two home state senators. Those senators can either return the blue slip with their approval, or they can withhold it to signal opposition. Traditionally, if home state senators don't return their blue slips, the nomination doesn't move forward. It's not a law, it's a Senate tradition, but it's a powerful one. In Habba's case, New Jersey's two Democratic senators, Cory Booker and Andy Kim, refused to return their blue slips. They opposed her nomination. Now here's the crucial part that constitutional expert Mike Davis explained on social media. This is not a Grassley problem, you idiots. This is a century-old Senate problem called the blue slip. All of these U.S. attorney nominees will fail on the Senate floor if they don't have support from both home state senators. Go round up 50 votes, then let's talk. Davis, who clerked for Supreme Court Justice Neil Gorsuch and is close to the Trump administration's legal team, was trying to explain a simple reality. Even if Grassley wanted to help Habba, even if he abandoned the blue slip tradition entirely, it wouldn't matter. Why? Because you need 50 votes on the Senate floor to confirm any nominee. Without home state senator support, even Republican senators from other states typically won't vote to confirm. It's about respecting state sovereignty and senatorial courtesy. Now, this is where the story gets really interesting, because Mike Davis, the constitutional expert I just quoted, didn't just make one statement and walk away. When people started attacking him for defending Grassley, he doubled down with some hard truths. Davis posted, "I will make this simpler for the low IQ, emotional people responding. I don't like blue slips, but if you want to confirm these nominees, you have to get a majority vote on the Senate Judiciary Committee, then again on the Senate floor. You will get neither without blue slips, because even too many Republican senators will vote against those nominees to protect their own power." This is the brutal reality that nobody wants to acknowledge. Davis continued, "Instead of you yelling at the reality, try to change it. Get all Senate Judiciary Republicans and 50 Republican senators to commit to voting for nominees without blue slips. Good luck. It won't happen." I tried. Think about what Davis is saying here. He's not defending the blue slip tradition because he likes it. He's explaining that even if Grassley eliminated blue slips tomorrow, Republican senators would still vote against nominees who don't have home state support. Why? Because they protect their own power and prerogatives. When someone criticized his tone, Davis responded perfectly. "I am a dick. Do you want facts or soothing words?" And that right there is exactly what we need more of in politics. People willing to tell us the hard truths instead of comfortable lies. Here's another hard truth. Chuck Grassley has been one of Trump's most effective allies in the Senate. This is the man who exposed the Biden family corruption, who fought the Russia collusion hoax, who has consistently supported Trump's agenda. Attacking him over a procedural Senate tradition he didn't create and can't unilaterally change is not just wrong, it's counterproductive. Now let's talk about the bigger picture here, because what happened after Habba's comments on Hannity should be a wake-up call for every conservative watching this video. Within hours of her appearance on Hannity, conservative social media exploded with attacks on Chuck Grassley. People calling him too old, demanding he step down, labeling him a rhino, saying he's betraying Trump. And all of this based on a fundamental misunderstanding of how the Senate actually works. This is exactly how Democrats win elections, folks. They sit back and watch while Republicans tear each other apart over misunderstandings and procedural issues. While we're busy attacking our own allies, Democrats are laughing all the way to the ballot box. Let me paint a picture of what happens if we keep this up. We split the Republican Party, primary out effective conservatives like Grassley, and then Democrats start flipping seats because we're too busy fighting each other to fight them. And when Democrats take control of the Senate, what do you think happens to Trump's agenda? Impeachment? Investigations? Complete obstruction of everything we voted for. Look, I'm all for accountability. If someone is genuinely working against Trump's agenda, call them out. But Chuck Grassley, the man who has been investigating corruption for decades, the guy who helped expose the Russia hoax, we're going to throw him under the bus because of a Senate tradition he didn't create and can't unilaterally change? Here's my rule. Until after the 2026 midterms, we hold our fire on Republicans who are generally supportive of Trump's agenda. After we secure our majorities and advance our policies, then we can have conversations about procedural reforms and internal party issues.
Now, I want to be fair to Alina Habba here, because she has had some significant legal victories that we should acknowledge. Remember her prediction about the Letitia James case in New York, when everyone was calling her a terrible lawyer after the initial ruling? She said they would ultimately win. And guess what? She was right. The case against Trump is falling apart, and James is facing serious consequences for her politically motivated prosecution. Back then, Habba said, "Miss James, you taunted him before you came into office, before you saw one record, one statement of financial condition. You taunted him." She said that she and Michael Cohen were going to be his biggest nightmare. Well, I have some news for you, Miss James. Michael Cohen folded, lied, and crumbled. When you let my client speak the truth, they've got nothing. And she was absolutely right. Time proved her correct, and now Letitia James is the one facing potential legal consequences. As U.S. Attorney, regardless of the legal challenges to her authority, Habba's office has been active. Under her leadership, there have been 719 arrests, 91 illegal guns seized, and Washington, D.C. has gone 8 days without a murder, numbers that would make any law enforcement official proud. But here's the reality she's facing now. The legal challenges to her authority are creating chaos in New Jersey's federal court system. Cases are being delayed, sentencing's postponed, and the entire district is in limbo while appeals courts sort out whether her appointment was legal. This isn't Habba's fault entirely. This is the result of a complex legal and political situation that involves constitutional law, Senate traditions, and the clash between executive power and legislative oversight. So, what are the real lessons from this entire controversy? And how do we move forward constructively? First, we need to understand that our system of government involves checks and balances for a reason. The Senate's role in confirming federal prosecutors isn't an obstruction. It's part of the constitutional framework our founders designed. Sometimes that framework protects us from bad appointments, and sometimes it blocks good ones. Second, we need to stop letting procedural disagreements turn into personal wars. Chuck Grassley's defense of Senate traditions doesn't make him anti-Trump any more than Trump's desire to streamline confirmations makes him anti-constitutional. These are good faith disagreements about process, not betrayals of principle. Third, and this is crucial, we cannot let misinformation divide us. When constitutional experts like Mike Davis take the time to explain complex legal realities, we need to listen to them instead of attacking them for telling us things we don't want to hear. Look at the difference between a measured response and an emotional reaction. One leads to understanding and solutions. The other leads to division and defeat. Here's what I think should happen. First, the appeals court needs to sort out the legal questions surrounding Habba's appointment. If she wins on appeal, great. She can continue her work without distraction. If she loses, Trump and the DOJ need to find a different path forward that respects constitutional requirements. Second, instead of attacking Chuck Grassley, we should be working on long-term Senate reform that addresses the blue slip tradition systematically. That means building consensus among Republican senators, not just demanding that committee chairs ignore century-old precedents. And finally, and this is crucial, we need to remember that the real enemy isn't Chuck Grassley or Senate traditions. It's the Democrats who want to obstruct Trump's agenda entirely. Every minute we spend fighting each other is a minute we're not spending fighting them. The Alina Habba versus Chuck Grassley controversy is a perfect example of how complex our political system can be and how easy it is for misunderstandings to spiral into unnecessary conflicts. Habba is a talented lawyer who has served Trump well and deserves our support as she faces legal challenges to her authority. Grassley is a conservative stalwart who has been fighting for our values longer than many of us have been paying attention to politics. Trump is trying to implement his agenda through a system designed to slow down rapid change. None of these people are villains in this story. They're all trying to advance conservative principles through a complicated constitutional framework that sometimes creates conflicts even among allies. Our job as informed citizens is to understand these complexities, resist the urge to turn every disagreement into a war, and keep our eyes on the real prize, advancing the conservative agenda that we all voted for. The Democrats are watching, folks. Let's not give them the satisfaction of watching us destroy ourselves from within. So, what do you think? After hearing all the facts, do you believe the attacks on Chuck Grassley were justified? Or was this controversy based on a misunderstanding of how the Senate actually works? And here's a bigger question. What other political controversies would you like me to break down with this level of detail? The media loves to oversimplify complex stories, but you deserve the full truth, not just sound bites and talking points. Let me know in the comments what topic you want covered next, whether it's constitutional law, political strategy, or breaking down the latest Washington drama. And if this deep dive helped you understand a complex story, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss future breakdowns. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and most importantly, stay united in the fight for our constitutional republic.